Hi, this is Tanya Drake, and I'm here to discuss with you Chapter 13, which is Modeling Using Data Available on the Internet. The purpose of the chapter was to reflect on how using data information or images on the Internet, how we can use that in teaching mathematics, and in particularly in using it for modeling projects. This was the statement that I really liked. It said, "We believe that the internet is ontologically changing the nature of human beings." And we know this because we're on it all the time. And we need to reinvent the classroom in order to influence the student's experience that is already full of one click, one pleasure experiences. Using non-mathematical themes to study in the mathematics classroom gives the student the opportunity to bring in their cultural backgrounds, any concerns they have for the future, their interests in the classroom, and then we can apply mathematics in an interdisciplinary way that can include all of that. So we're going to look at a mathematical model that uses the internet and other types of software. So the students chose their own theme, the melting glacier, because the student was watching a program on TV about glaciers and how they were melting. So he was curious as to what's going to happen to them in the future. So the question that was posed was, um, will they exist at all? And so their prediction is that it's going to eventually diminish to nothing. So we use the internet and the software to analyze the problem that they used it. Okay, so this was considered a real world modeling problem using technology over the melting glacier. All right, so as they looked at it, they realized from a picture that I'll show you in a few minutes that the size of the glacier over time is going to make a difference. So we looked at the area of the glacier and time. They formulated a hypothesis related to the glacier that says over time the glacier will diminish. Then they creatively managed to acquire data using digital technology, and then they properly organize it in a table. They analyzed the data using percentages and represented them in a plot over time. So here is what they got on the internet. And as you can see, there is nothing here but just a few dates, nothing about how big it is. And so these students cleverly got a picture of this particular glacier, put it on GeoGebra, got all the points around it, and asked GeoGebra to enclose it as a polygon. Isn't that neat? In that way, they were able to get the area. Next, it says up here the students repeated this procedure. Oops, go back. The students repeated this procedure for each of the 6 images. There were 6 images. You only saw 3 there. And then they were able to set up data associated each year with the corresponding area of the glacier according to what GeoGebra spit out. So in 1850, 11.8 was the area, and then so forth, all the way up to 2003. And as you can see, it is diminishing. They were then able to use Graphmatica to create a graph to prove their hypothesis. And so they graphed the area versus time, and it is diminishing. And then as it keeps going, eventually it looks like it's going to go to nothing. So, how does this relate to the modeling? The table and the data in the graph are the mathematical models, and the students used to obtain that information from the internet and other software. Their results confirmed their initial hypothesis that the glaciers have diminished to the point of almost disappearing over time. And so the search of information about the glacier on the internet confirmed the validation of their descriptive model. So, there was a quote in in the chapter that I really like to say, the intershaping relationship between humanity and technology is that they are both suffused interchangeably. Now, basically, we're gathering information and we're using it, and the internet is giving us information. So we're just going back and forth getting information. The internet allowed the students to access information and a photo about glaciers to analyze, but then they had to go beyond that as they constructed the simulated data from what they found and use that data to understand more about how the glacier was diminishing. They put that information in a table, and then they made the graph. And so basically, students could not have modeled this, modeled the size of the glacier over time without GeoGebra or Graphmatica and the internet. They couldn't have done it as quickly as they did. So basically, using the software saves time. Using the value of the area given by GeoGebra, that basically allowed the students to focus on their reasoning instead of trying to figure out how big it was. And they didn't have to focus on the reasoning and on the analysis of the results and not on the calculations needed to create the approximation of the area. Same thing about Graphmatica. Actually, once you have data in tables, the Graphmatica is just an instant picture, or any type of graphing calculator could have created an instant picture, but it just gives it to you really quickly. So basically, there were three aspects about this model. The students got a chance to choose their own theme. There was problem posing, and then the internet was the source of data that was used. So all of that illustrates how the software of any kind, including the internet, can empower a modeling problem. And that's all I have to say about Chapter 13. Thanks.